I often talk about how much I miss old YouTube, so I thought I would bring you a little slice. Art tags were really popular and still are on YouTube in the art community and on Instagram and all that, and I loved them, especially the ones on DeviantArt. I just enjoyed reading about people, seeing them write about themselves in their own style. It was a staple of every DeviantArt profile page, kind of like a snippet of MySpace in the art world. And I've always wanted to make my own art tag, and I thought I didn't put up a video last week. So I've also decided that I'm going to be putting up videos on Mondays, because Fridays are really crowded for me. I have a game night that I do with my friends every Friday night, and I'm just going to put them up on Monday from now on. Yeah, Mondays. Look forward to them. So I did some embroidery for a friend, my friend Neva, who I haven't visited in ages because we both really suck at reaching out to people. So I'm gonna go visit her and bring her a little gift. I'm making a blueberry pie. Our oven is broken, so hopefully it works out okay. I made her a moth embroidery because she loves nature as much as I do, more so I would say. She engages with it more than I do, and I'll be answering the art tag questions that I've written. I'll be answering them as honestly and briefly as I can, and I've put them in the description below if you want to make a response video, if you want to show your process doing something. This is all real time, no speeding up of embroidery, because I sometimes find it really relaxing to just watch someone work in like real time. I'll see you on Monday and get to know me a bit better. Here is my art tag. This isn't a picture book that I read when I was a small child. It is one that I found at the National Gallery of Victoria while looking at art books, and it completely blew my mind with how beautiful it was illustrated. It's called The Little Gardener by Emily Hughes. The illustration style is something that I used to want to aspire to, but now I'm not really doing illustrative stuff. I'm doing more fine art type things, but it was so beautifully done, and just the depictions of the nature in the little garden and the tiny world of it all. It was just so beautiful to read, and it started a small collection of picture books that I read even now as an adult, because I just think they're so beautiful and the stories are so sweet. I'm not sure if this really counts because I don't really draw animals, but I love drawing moths. Butterflies as well, but I feel like there's a hidden magic to moths. They're not as loved, they're not as sought after. Well, I mean, in entomology circles, they're very well loved, but in general, I feel like they're underrated, so I really do love drawing moths. The funny thing is that my butterfly book series is mostly moths, but 𝘼𝙍𝙏 book wasn't as catchy, so butterfly book it is. I really love collecting leaves from going on a walk, and often, because of the area I live in, that will result in me drawing sweet gum leaves, London plane tree leaves, Japanese maple tree leaves, and of course a tree that I really love, so I guess maybe this is my favourite one to draw, is 𝘼𝙍𝙏 𝙏𝘼𝙂, the Hong Kong orchid tree that has little leaves that look like apples. So I collect all the little bits that I find when I go for a walk, and I nature journal. Those are my favourite plants to draw, the ones that I find. I love green. Green can be a dark ocean or a bright, almost yellow leaf that's popped out in spring. I think green is the most beautiful colour in the world. It can mean so many different things, but overwhelmingly calming is how I would describe it. I love painting with green, the yellowy ones, the darker ones, the bright neon greens. the ones that look like rolling hills and fresh grass, all the greens. But kind of bouncing off of that, I love using yellows. Golden yellows, lemon yellows, almost orange yellows. I just love green and gold, which is ironic because those are often associated with being Australian colours. But it's a colour that I always see in nature, and those two colours always, they always cheer me up. Van Gogh was my favourite, I would say. I really love the New South Wales, so that's the Art Gallery of New South Wales, just general collection. The Aboriginal art is beautiful and detailed. It's interesting to see basically a lot of ancient work that was done so long ago, because a lot of the work is contemporary and a lot of it is stuff from before settlers or around the time of, well, not settlers, colonizers, let's be real here. And it's amazing to see how they were already abstracting things and thinking conceptually, and it took white people hundreds of years later to be able to do that. So it was just kind of ironic seeing what they would consider primitive art being generations ahead of the style that is now considered, cutting edge. I really love the artwork, the sculptures. There's marble sculptures at Ag New South Wales, and pastoral paintings that romanticize the Australian landscape, and some that are more realistic. I love it because it feels like walking through history, despite it having really horrible moments like the gold rush and the slavery that happened in Australia. But there was an exhibition at NAS when I used to go there that had an artwork by 𝘼𝙍𝙏, and the artwork was called Here and Now, and it was a sensory experience. It was like stepping into a forest and a river all at once. She had a friend of hers make a petrichor perfume that she sprinkled around the place. If you don't know what petrichor is, I feel like everyone knows by now. It's the smell of rain hitting fresh earth, that soft, natural smell of forests and riverbeds, and it was just such a beautiful sensory experience that I often dream about it now. And she gave away little vials of the perfume, so I still have one somewhere. I had a few. I went in and grabbed quite a few of them, but some broke, some I lost, some I gave away. I think I have one left somewhere. I love mediums that are flowy. I don't like being in total control, which is ironic because I am quite a control freak in my general life. But I love ink and I love watercolor. But I'm also kind of dipping back into pencils, and it's quite nostalgic. I think the reason I avoided it is because it doesn't dry. Watercolor and ink, even though it can be messy, once it's dry, it's finished. Pencil smudges, you need to go and spray fixative, all that. And I don't like having lots of steps to doing things. Jazz albums tend to be my favourite. I can't think of any specific colour schemes that I'm a huge fan of. They're not illustrated, or a lot of these albums will have oil paintings as the cover. The one that I can think of that is painted that I really love is 𝘼𝙍𝙏 and Remo Palmier's Windflower. It's a watercolour painting of a field of windflowers, and they're beautiful, and that album is one of my absolute favourite jazz albums. Actually, I think I would say it is my favourite jazz album. Bill Evans Trio's Autumn Leaves is my next. Other than that, Stoneflower is my favourite. I love the photograph. I think it really captures the spirit of Antonio Carlos Jobim. L.M. Montgomery, who wrote Anne of Green Gables, has another book series called the Emily series. And I have all three of the books, and they're done in this really beautiful watercolor style. And I just think they're so charming. And the other books that I think are really beautifully designed are the Furthermore and which book? Sorry, The other two books that I really love the design of are by 𝘼𝙍𝙏. It's Witchwood and Furthermore. I just think that they're so charming, and I just love how bright they are. I'm not a fan of minimalist book covers, which is sad considering that all of the Murakami books that I have, I think a couple of them aren't the minimalist paperbacks, but most of them are. So yeah, I'm not a huge fan of all the minimalist bullshit going on. Like I said in my minimalism is killing creativity video. I have so many feelings about the game that I played over and over again and can't really describe my fixation with, but it's Night in the Woods. I think the game is beautifully drawn. I think it's so excellently designed. The music is so poignant. I know there's a lot of controversy about the guy who made it, that he assaulted his ex-girlfriend and then took his own life. Regardless, the team that worked on it, because it was not just him, the team that worked on it, which included his sister and a bunch of other amazing game designers, did such a wonderful job. It is such a dreamy and beautiful game, even though it's quite dark, and I often dream about it, actually. Other than that, I played a puzzle game recently called When the Past Was Around, that's made by an Indonesian indie game design group called 𝘼𝙍𝙏 Productions, and it was so beautifully drawn. I listen to lots of different things. Usually it's my Spotify Discovery playlist or just the general playlist that I've been listening to. When my playlist gets stale, I make a new one and then add whatever I want to it and then continue. I don't have playlists for certain things, I just have playlists. Other than that, I listen to audiobooks quite a bit. I also listen to podcasts. Recently, I've been listening to the live concerts on the Ghostly Kisses YouTube channel. Ghostly Kisses is a French-Canadian band, and oh my goodness, the music is so angelic and beautiful, and it's just really nice to relax to in the evening. So that's what I've been listening to when I've been drawing at night. During the day, I listen to other stuff, really. I'm like every other bitch out there. I love Ghibli films. My top 3 are Kiki's Delivery Service, Howl's Moving Castle, and Porco Rosso. I love the world in Arrietty, like the tiny home, but it's not one that I find myself enjoying rewatching frequently. Recently, I watched Luca with my brother a bunch because we really liked it. And we also watched The Mitchells vs. the Machines, which was such a good film. I'm really glad that Netflix ended up acquiring it because Sony wanted to release it with the worst title imaginable, Connected. Again, minimalism is killing creativity. The Mitchells vs. the Machines is such a cool name. It sounds like a graphic novel or a comic book series. I always drew, I always liked picture books, and I loved reading. I've always had a very vivid imagination, and I love spending time on my own. I didn't have a creative family at all, but as I got older, I realized that it was too difficult for me to write out my imaginative thoughts, and so I started drawing them and documenting them. And then late in high school, I realized that drawing and painting were the only things that would really genuinely make me feel calm and feel in control. And so that's when I decided to go to art school. And I was so naive because I imagined myself making illustrated work and becoming an animator and all sorts of other things, starting an Etsy business, which I did but shut down. And now I see art as something almost spiritual. It is human culture. It's society's fingertips. No. Now, after a lot of experience and studying of art history and making fine art and conceptual art specifically, interactive pieces, I'm starting to really see that art is so important to human beings. It's human culture, it's society's fingerprints. And I'm so glad that my future career is to be an art historian and to teach people, because it's just something that I'm really, really passionate about. How, despite all the tragedies in the world, despite all of the poverty and the famine, people still took the time to make beautiful things, to make things to make you feel things, even if they weren't necessarily beautiful. Art is supposed to make you feel something, and there's so many definitions to art, but that's just mine. And I love it. I'm a glutton for enjoying all of the senses. I love music. I love the smell of fresh grass and linen and petrichor, and I love a nice warm coffee. I love a salty focaccia. I like eating pickled red onions. I just love feeling with all the senses, and I feel like art, especially conceptual art and interactive art, can really mess with all your senses in a way that can shock you and delight you, and I think that's really, really special. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in my next video. Remember, it's coming out on Monday now. Bye.